If you have a strange or scary story you'd like to share with the channel, go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to send it my way. Or you can email it to me at astheravendreams@gmail.com. Hey, I love your narrations. Personally, I struggle to believe in glitches and similar phenomenon. However, despite my reluctance, I experienced a small glitch that I can't just blame on a moment of distraction or poor short-term memory. I actually have a pretty good memory, although I'm aware of the limitations we can all face when it comes to recalling things with total accuracy. I found someone's driver's license on a sidewalk with no one else around. If someone dropped it, they were long gone. I was heading to the post office soon and know that if you lose your license or state ID in the US, the post office will mail it back for the owner and just charge the ID owner a small fee to cover postage. It's easy enough, so I grabbed it. I placed the license on the seat in my truck and looked at it more closely. It was a little damaged, bent and then bent back. I flipped it over and saw a Caucasian woman with light curly hair and a sunburnt face, looking back at me through the ID picture. There was nothing else on the passenger seat. Instantly, I felt a wave of negative feelings when I reflected on the picture on the ID. The woman looked vaguely like a former coworker who wasn't the greatest. But it's not like it was her. The negative thoughts and feelings toward this person and their ID didn't feel right or natural, almost as if they came from outside of my head. Internally, I combated them, thinking to myself, you don't know this woman. She's not all these negative things, and hopefully it'll help her out a lot to get this back. Hopefully this'll save her a trip to the DMV, and the replacement fees. Even so, I flipped the ID over, seeing again that slight crease on the back where it had been bent slightly and then flattened back into shape. Finally, after a few more errands, I get to the post office. I hadn't looked at the ID much, or at all, as I was focused on driving and getting a few more things done. I grabbed that ID off the passenger seat, and instead of a sunburned Caucasian lady, there's a completely different person looking back at me. The woman in the photo was a different race, with lovely skin and a nice smile. She was younger, too. I flipped the ID over and it was devoid of the slight warping and discoloration from being bent and reshaped. It was pristine. I was so confused. I thought maybe I had picked up driver's licenses and maybe one of them had fallen to the floor. I searched on the mat and under the seat and found nothing. I gave the postal employee the license, and they said they would get it back to her. A few days later, I did an intense search of my vehicle and still came up empty. That original ID was gone. How had I seen a completely different person? Why did my brain go all haywire and feel negative towards a person I didn't even know? How did I feel instantly relieved seeing the nice smile of the woman on the new ID? Thank you for reading this, and I hope it can validate anyone else who experiences any type of weird, negative, or external feeling thoughts prior to a glitch. If I'm the only one with that type of experience, that's fine too. Longtime fan, Raven. You have a way of telling stories that just hits different, so thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for that. Alright, I've been trying to convince myself that this is just a coincidence, that maybe I somehow made this happen. I listen to 3 podcasts religiously, you being one of them. Whenever I get the notification that one of you guys have put up something new, I turn it on almost immediately. For the longest time, I believe I was in denial, telling myself, you probably hit a button. You probably swiped your screen or something, your phone maybe just unlocked in your pocket. But after today, I don't believe this was my doing. I don't believe it's a coincidence, And I don't know what's going on, but this glitch involves, well, you, Raven. This has happened so many times that I've lost count. I listen to your podcast when it's slow at work. It's something about listening to Glitch in the Matrix, true crime, or any crazy ex-lover stories while I'm cleaning is awfully soothing. I first noticed that this happened last year, in 2024. I hear a familiar story, one I swear you've told before, which I've told myself you do compilation stories sometimes, so maybe that's what's happening. But it happens again, and again, and again. It's the same story, every single time. It's when you first started putting things out as episodes. The first story about crazy ex-lovers. The person goes on to talk about how they went to a party, and were talking about wanting to get out of the state they were currently living in. They ended up at a Friendsgiving, and they see a woman out on a porch reading. They thought it was weird that they were reading at a party. Cut 2, they end up dating and he eventually sees the red flags. Random gifts, which he didn't even know if she paid for, her jealousy and territorial behavior, until one day she snapped. I've heard this story so many times I almost have it memorized. I could be listening to a different episode that you put out, and this story randomly finds its way in. It used to only happen a couple of times a month, but this last year, it's turned from monthly to weekly to almost every time I listen to your podcast. I went as far as getting a new phone, thinking my older model was glitching. No, it still happens. It's not the freakiest thing to happen, but what happened on Saturday still has me confused. As I said before, I listen to 3 podcasts religiously. I was listening to one of the other podcasts. Similar to you, they read subscriber stories. I was about halfway through this episode of the other podcast, and then I heard your voice. I stopped in my tracks. I scrambled to get my phone out of my back pocket. It's still on my other podcast, not yours. Only that story from you was read, and then it went back to the original reader's voice. I've gone back and listened to it again, and nowhere in this podcast do I hear your voice again. I thought I was tired. I thought maybe I was going crazy. Well, today I turned on one of your episodes, and I kid you not, the introduction to your episode was, "Hey Sam, thanks for coming back." I sat on my bathroom floor, I restarted my episode over and over again, and you never said that. It never came back, and I haven't heard it since this morning. I am not sure what's going on, and I don't know how to explain this. Maybe someone can help? Am I doing this somehow? Am I maybe losing my mind? Well, that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it, and if anything weird happens again, I will update, but until then, sweet dreams. I don't do this normally, but I would like to add my 2 cents into this to some extent. It's not really an opinion, more so just a bit of response. That's weird. I've obviously never started an episode with "Hello, Sam," though, hello, Sam. And I've obviously not used any crazy X stories in a multitude of episodes. I try not to use stories more than twice, at the most, 3 times if I do a best of. But yeah, that's bizarre. I even went through some of my old Crazy X stories I have on my spreadsheet, and I can't seem to find that one. Even though I feel like I know what story you're talking about, it wasn't on any of my Crazy X episodes. It was probably, I just can't find it. I'm going to leave it like that, because that's the easiest explanation, right? But I can't seem to find it in the list. Obviously, I have over 5 years worth of stories in this list, so it may just be missed by me, but that's weird. And Sam, I'm sorry that you're dealing with that, and yeah. Anyways, thank you. Hello, Raven. I really enjoy your stories and your way of telling them. Thanks for reading all the weirdness that has happened to your audience, including me. thank you to you all for sending in your stories. This time I'll tell you about something that happened a long time ago, back in the late 60s. It was a sunny day in early summer in a rural area of southeastern Norway. I was a first grader in elementary school. Me, my classmates, and our teacher took a bus to get to an idyllic big pond with a long beach, where we could swim and play in the water and have a nice picnic in the grassy field beside the pond. Everyone was happy that we got to get out of school and enjoy the sunshine and the water. When we reached our destination, we got out of the bus, of course. To get to the pond, we had to cross the road, which was a very busy highway. Being the stupid little kid that I was, I forgot to look for cars and ran straight out into the traffic from right in front of the bus. I didn't see the huge truck filled with sand that came toward me, and frankly, the driver had no chance of seeing me either. Everything happened very fast, and the truck hit me. The next thing I remember is that I flew up in the air, and the only thing I thought was, wow, I'm flying. Then, the light went out. I don't know how long I was out, but I woke up lying on my stomach in a field with straws in my mouth. I was totally confused and wondering why in the world I was lying there eating grass. Then there was a lot of commotion, of course. Our teacher and my classmates, as well as the bus driver and the truck driver, came running out in the field, and everyone looked very scared. I was at first confused at all of this, but at the same time I had a warm, nice, calm feeling inside of me, and I wondered why they made such a fuss. Then, I remembered that I was hit by a truck, but that didn't bring me out of balance. And I thought the others had to understand that I was completely fine. Of course, that was not obvious at all to those who saw me being hit and flying through the air, but little me thought it was. Some of my classmates had run down to the pond where some of our parents, including my mother, waited for us. They had scared the crap out of her by telling her that her little girl had been run over by a truck. Poor mom, she must have believed that I was dead and expected that all that was left of me was just a bloody and gooey mess. She, of course, ran up to where I was and thankfully could see that I was very much alive. I had a sprained wrist and a wound on my upper arm that was deep enough to reveal my skeleton, but other than that, I was fine. There was a first aid kit in the kiosk by the pond, and someone stopped the bleeding and put bandages on the arm and the wrist. No one thought of calling an ambulance or even driving me to a doctor for some reason. I guess they saw that I was all right. But Mom didn't let me swim, of course. I had to sit in the grass with her and remember getting a lot of ice cream while the other kids were playing on the beach and swimming. I resented that because I'd been looking forward to this day and loved swimming. As if that wasn't bad enough, my brand new red leather school bag that I had carried when I was hit had taken a bad beating, and there was a big hole in it. Needless to say, I was not amused by how this day turned out. Everyone told me that no one could believe how I had survived this accident, and that I should be grateful that I was alive, and that my bag may have saved my life. But gratitude was not within my range of emotions back then. The poor truck driver, who was actually a local man who knew my mother, was completely devastated that he had hit me, and he came to visit me at home a few days later to see how I was doing. I've been thinking about this accident many times since, and I still wonder how this could have turned out so well, and why I wasn't even scared. Someone might say that I had an angel guard, but I didn't see any angel or anything or anyone else, so just pure luck? But what exactly is luck? I have a hard time believing in coincidences, and luck fits into the same category. When you think about the odds of a small child running onto a busy highway, being hit by a heavy truck, flying through the air and falling down in a field without being killed or seriously injured, that isn't something people would have put money on. Maybe it just wasn't my turn to die. Or maybe this was a possible time for me to withdraw from life that I, for some reason, didn't go through with. Or maybe I actually died in this timeline but switched to another. What do I know? All I can remember, and still remember it vividly, is flying, darkness, grass in my mouth, the sight of blood and a big hole in my arm and on my school bag. And I remember a peaceful feeling despite all the commotion around me. I don't remember any pain in the situation. I remember pain in the following days, though. But I cannot remember being scared or looking at this accident as any kind of trauma. It was something that just happened, as far as I'm concerned. This was just the first time that I was in an accident that could have been fatal. There have been more over the years, but that's a story for another time. Now, there is an expression. You look like you've been hit by a truck. I guess I'm one of the few people who can answer back with, well, I was. Hey Raven, I hope you've been well and that the recent issues with YouTube ads hasn't been too strenuous to work out. It sounds exhausting and I hope it does work out. I got it mostly fixed, I think. For the most part. I decided to pick a story that is fairly recent. A few weeks ago, I was at my mom's house to help go through the most insane amount of photos that was sent to her by her stepmother, since her father died some time ago. Grandpa was a sweet man who is the classic, I dropped out of school to help my family and then joined the military. The era being when it was common for people to not finish school. Mom got emotional with some of the photos, and I asked about some that were there well before my time. I learned more about my grandpa, and I wish I would have recorded more of his story when he was alive. As we were going through the mass amounts of photos, and my kids played on the Switch, I came across several photos that caught my attention. In them, there was my grandpa, my grandma, my mom's stepmom, my mom and stepfather, and my brother. And also a girl with dark hair and a slightly faded dark no fear sweater. I couldn't place the girl, and based on some of the photos, I knew that this was back when my family lived in Washington State, north of Seattle and Bellingham. I handed my mom the photos and asked where exactly they were taken. She said, "Oh, this was on one of the islands, across the border in Canada. We took a ferry to a lighthouse." I then asked who the girl was. I know it hadn't been my brother's girlfriend, and my mom gave me a puzzled look. "You don't remember the ferry ride in the lighthouse? That's you." I looked at my mom confused. Now, for a bit of context, in the last 10 years my memory has changed, so there are a lot of things that I won't remember. It's because of a period of trauma that I went through around 10 years ago. Sometimes I won't remember happy events. I don't even remember prom. The only thing is, I can recognize myself in photos. But not this time. That person in the photo is not me. It's someone else. I can't begin to explain how odd this made me feel. It isn't me. I recognize the sweater and that's about it. But anyone could have had it. The more I looked at the photo, the more it was like I was looking at someone else who took my place in a moment in time that I have no memory of. I would have been 15 at the time that the photos were taken. Generally, I don't 100% believe in glitches or time slips and what have you, because memory can be tricky, and that's been proven. But this was just too weird. That person is not me. In the end, my mom realized that my comments from the last few years about my memory having changed seemed more real to her, but not recognizing myself in a set of photos amongst all the others is an entirely different thing. So, is it another me or someone else? It bothers me so much. By the way, I know that I just aged myself with the no fear sweater, as that was a big shirt line back in the day. Hi Raven, Samurai Jack here. Let me first state that I have a great time on your live streams. Shout out to Patience as well, and Anime. That's someone that usually joins the live streams. Her username is AnimeOtame. So, I have a short story, plus a few questions for your audience. First, the story. When I was a kid, I read a magazine called Zoo Books. It was for young readers to learn all about animals. Well, anyway, I had a giraffe magazine, and I used to read them under my grandparents' bed. Still to this day, I don't know why I read them there, but I did. My grandparents lived in Fairfield, Connecticut. I live in Rhode Island. It's a 2.5-hour drive. I ended up forgetting my magazine. I went into my room when I got home, and to my pure astonishment, the magazine was sitting in the middle of my bed. How did it get there? Did it teleport? Aliens? To this day, I have no clue. And part 2. Over the past 5 years, I've had some pretty interesting things happen. I don't know anyone that has had these happen to them. And it's still happening. 1, 10.5 months of YouTube unexpectedly quitting 2 times a day. Here's the important part of this. 8 other adults live in this building. Not one person has had YouTube quit working on them. Not even 1 time, so why does it single me out? 2, for 2 months, every time I got or made a call, I had to watch an ad from YouTube. What does YouTube have to do with checking your text messages or phone calls? 3, I have a DVD player that only plays 2. I mean, 1 less than 3 and 1 more than 1. 2, just 2 DVDs. 2. I don't get it. Am I cursed with that? 4, I had an MP3 player and I put 1,308 songs on it. I did the whole procedure to unhook it properly and then plugged it into my car, and there were 0. Just 0. How? How did they just disappear? And now the things I'm experiencing right now as Raven's audience hears this, I can like a video or a short, and you know how when you like a video it turns white? Not for me. It acts like I don't even press it. So now I have to turn off my phone completely and then it works, but as Raven narrates this, I'm up to 2 times doing this a day. Help. Why does this keep happening? I would feel better if I had an explanation, but so far nobody can explain it. And I'm sure there will be more. Thank you, Raven. Thank you, Patience. Stay well, everyone. Get snug, and as Raven says, sleep well. Hi, Raven. I've been listening for a long time, and I've wanted to put in a few stories, cause God knows I have some good ones. But this recent glitch has me seriously disturbed, to the point that I'm finally submitting. I have 2, but I'll tell you about the one that is messing with my mind first. I moved back in with my parents after a breakup, and that is when I met their neighbor that's just 2 houses down. And his dog. We'll call the dog Sam. My dog absolutely adores, for this story we'll call the guy John, John's dog so much that every time we ran into each other, which is like every morning, they would play and get tangled up. Now, this is where the glitch has happened. I remember Sam's tail, or should I say lack thereof, because of his breed. Sam is an Australian Shepherd mix, small dog. And I remember noticing he had no tail, and it stuck with me because I'm like, why would they do that? A few weeks back, my mom and I were walking the dog and we thought that we saw John and his dog Sam. But then my mom said, no, that's not Sam. That dog has a tail. So, today, I'm driving to get a coffee in the morning and I see John and Sam. And it took me a minute for it to click, but Sam had a tail. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. It must have been someone else, or he was walking someone else's dog. No, it was them, I swear. Sam is a unique-looking dog, and, well, so is John. Unique-looking, not a dog. So I'm thinking about it all the way home, and I asked my mom if Sam has a tail, and she said no. So, anyways, our neighbor's dog suddenly has a tail and it's messing with my mind. Another glitch. This happened back in 2019. My ex and I went to Cuba and I brought my favorite necklace that he bought me. It was for his friend's wedding, so that's why I brought such a meaningful and expensive item. Anyways, when we were packing to go home, I triple-checked my suitcase and everything was in there. And fast forward to when we get home and I'm unpacking and I cannot find that necklace. It was in a special spot in the suitcase and it was zipped up and locked. Me and my ex ripped apart that suitcase and our apartment. It was gone. About a year later, we break up and I move back in with my parents. And then maybe about a month or two after the breakup, I'm going through my suitcase. I honestly can't remember why. I reach into the place where I had put my necklace and I felt something in there. A plastic bag. I didn't think much of it until I pulled it out. In my hand was the necklace that I thought was gone. The one that he and I ripped apart everything looking for. I was so stunned. I ended up texting my ex and telling him, /confirming that we couldn't find it. He confirmed it and we were both just blown away. Those are my only 2 Glitch in the Matrix stories. I'll give you some paranormal ones. Thank you for what you do. You've calmed my mind on many occasions, and love from Canada. I wanted to share a strange experience that happened to me about 3 or 4 years ago. I was volunteering at a discipleship school, and there was, dorm rooms. I was in one of them. I remember how there was a dresser in my room near a bed across from me. I looked at it, and it was moved, I think, because I was cleaning and I had moved it. But I know that it was there next to my bed for a fact. As I looked at it, I thought about how I wanted to move it back to its original spot, which was a lot further across the room near the door. Honestly, I'm not sure why it was moved near me, but I looked at it before bed and wanted to move it. But I decided I would just do it in the morning. When I woke up the next morning, it was in its original spot. So I went to thank my roommate. My only roommate, by the way, for moving it back. I told her, "Hey, thanks for moving the dresser back. I wanted to do it last night, but didn't get to it." I so appreciated her, but then she replied, "I never moved it. It wasn't me." So I said, "Wait, what? Who moved it then?" She said, "I don't know, but it wasn't me." I then asked, "Don't you remember it was right here? Maybe this was a different dimension," I said jokingly, and she laughed. To this day, I don't know what happened. I don't know if an angel moved it, or maybe I did but don't remember. But I'm sure I would remember something like that. Why would I move it in the middle of the night? For now, I'm not sure if I'm in another dimension or not, and to this day, I wonder. So, this story may be disturbing to some, but I'm gonna start this story off with how I warped into a time loop where I got stuck for a week or two. So, one afternoon on September 23rd, 2021, around the time the CERN particle accelerator was fired up at 12 o'clock or something, I swear I felt something was off. Because I was able to control the electricity, the kind the Wi-Fi gives off, or something. Anyways, long story short, I felt very uneasy. I tried to walk off this feeling of non-belonging to this reality, and as I walked out my door, the same car passed by twice, with the same person driving, back to back. I found it very uncomfortable and unsettling, so I decided to walk into town to notice that things were different, signs that were never there before. I thought to myself, since when did we have a barber shop in this small town? It had never been there before. As I thought to myself, it was, again, unsettling. I said, something is wrong here. Upon walking through my small town, I noticed that a tattoo parlor apparently appeared out of nowhere. Again, I was thinking of how unsettling it was, that the names of the buildings were old memories or thoughts. I started to get freaked out and then probably did something that no one should have done. I asked for what year we were in. I believe, unfortunately, that I have broken fragments of the universe, as things are still like this time to time. Random buildings or signs appear that come from my thoughts or experiences, and it's creepy. Hi, bestie. Hello. I don't think I've ever had anyone call me bestie. I've been really enjoying your videos lately. Thank you for helping exercise my brain. Thank you for listening. My husband works long hours at his job. He's supposed to be done by 3 p.m. every day, but many, many times it's much later. I'm a teacher and also have 2 kids. So when I get home from work, I'm absolutely pooped. It was probably 8:30 to 9 p.m. and he came home. He walked in the door, put his lunchbox down, grabbed a beer, and took his shoes off. His nightly routine. After he took his shoes off and put them back, he came and stood right by the TV and started telling me about his day. He does this every single night. He never sits on the couch, he always stands in that spot and starts talking. I vividly remember him telling me a story from his day. He works for the railroad and always has the craziest stories, but I'll spare you the details of the story. After we talked for about 10 minutes, he went in the bathroom and showered. I heard the water run and the shower curtain squeak on the rod. I'm still sitting on my couch, probably watching one of your videos, and all of a sudden my dogs start barking. My dogs do bark quite a bit, but usually go crazy when they hear or see a car pull in the driveway. I got up and looked out the window to see my husband driving his car into the driveway. I was really confused. He came in the house and I asked him where he went or if he went to the post office. We have a P.O. box and it's right across the street. He looked at me all confused and said, work? I literally started arguing, thinking that he was joking with me to make me think I'm crazy, but he was 100% serious. He had just gotten home. I vividly remember him coming in, telling me about his day, and getting in the shower. My face was pale and my heart was beating so fast. He started laughing, thinking that I was messing with him. My husband is not someone who believes in conspiracy theories or glitches or anything, so I didn't even tell him what I was thinking. I kept telling myself that I'd had a long day at work and was probably tired or dreaming. But I really don't think that's the case. I'd like to know what you all think about this situation. So, my friends, that was this week's collection of Glitch in the Matrix stories. Stories about oddities, strangeness, and bizarre happenings in our simulation situation. Do we live in a simulation? Who knows? I won't say yes. I won't even personally say that I believe we do. But I will say that there are some dang strange things that happen in this world. Things that I can't explain. And as I'm not the arbiter of truth, I will never attempt to say it's not supernatural or it is. I'll just use the stories and videos, read them, enjoy them, and allow my audience to take in the information and decide what they decide. It's my way of doing things. I don't know if anyone knows that, but my preference is to put the stories out there, whether or not I believe them or whether or not I think it's a normal or natural thing, and just let the listeners make their decisions. Yeah, that's how I like to do things. Hopefully you enjoyed this collection of Glitch in the Matrix stories. If you did, please do hit that like button. That'd be awesome. I would appreciate that. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, you can also subscribe. That'd be amazing. I'd appreciate that as well. And you can listen to the podcast on other platforms in longer formats, such as on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Audible. Audible was one I couldn't think of, sorry. all those places, pretty much anywhere you get your podcast fix. Send your stories into astheravendreams.com or email astheravendreams@gmail.com. But all the information on the podcast and all my platforms for social media, they're all on astheravendreams.com, front page, near the bottom. Just, you can find them all there. You can also join Patreon memberships, get early access to content like this. Nothing you can do. Or just continue being the amazing person you are. Listen to my stuff, share it if you want to, and yeah. Just exist. I appreciate that more than you know. On Monday glitch videos, or first of the week glitch videos, I do what's called the word of the week. And last week the word of the week was dapper, and a good number of you commented the word dapper. A lot of Dapper Dan comments, more than one at least, which is fine. Kind of expected Dapper Dan to be something that was said. So on the screen right now, and several moments prior to now, is a collection of all the people who used the word dapper last week in last week's video. And as such, we say thank you to each and every single one of them right here, right now. This is your shout out. This is to tell you how amazing you are. Thank you so very much. Commenting on videos helps push them in the algorithm, so these people help my videos perform better. I understand not a lot of people like to comment, but if you ever just get the hankering, please do just say hi. Just comment and say, hey, how's it going? Hey, I liked this story. Hey, I wasn't a fan of this story. Just stuff like that. Yeah. Moving on to this week's word of the week. This week, the word of the week is a simpler one than even dapper, even though dapper was pretty simple. This week, the word of the week is hue. H-U-E. Hue. It's the overall character or appearance to the mind, complexion or aspect, such as the party I was at had people of all hues and histories. It can also mean color, gradation of color, or the attribute of colors that permits them to be classed as red, yellow, blue, green, or an intermediate between any contiguous pairs of these colors, such as red with an orange hue or blue with a green hue, like blue-green. So, yeah. Use the color hue in a sentence in the comments. Get featured next week. Yeah. All that said, my friends, hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you. Hope I see you again here very soon. But until then, remember that you are loved, that you are valid, that you are important, and you're the best you that you can be. Until next time, my friends, much love, and sleep well.